Well, I'm going to go ahead and call a meeting to order. And I'd like a motion to adopt the minutes of January 6, 2015. Moved. Second. All in favor? Carried. And as there are no delegations, we'll move to D business. One, corporate strategic plan draft.
Yes, following the in-camera meeting, I incorporated some of the feedback I received at that meeting. If there's any other feedback before I bring it to a council meeting for formal adoption, now's the time. Also, if you want to send me anything.
Comments? Councilman Wilson.
So, I don't have it on my
Yeah, I'm having the same problem.
memory, but it's page 2, paragraph 1, and second paragraph, when we identified our strengths, and I think says that we identified three core strengths. And I think we need to add also that we have land assets. I think it's an advantage for a small community to own a number of land or properties. And that's, I think, one of our strengths. Page 3, first, page 2, line 7. The effect of climate change to our, I remember, infrastructure and housing. Maybe we can also add the effect of climate change on our local economy, because it will affect businesses. Page, I think page 2, line 7. Page 3, line 7.
Okay.
Page 5, this is just typo. Page 5, second paragraph regarding corporate capacity. It's responsibly to deliver, not to delivery. Last line. Resources responsibly to delivery effective. That's just typo. And
It's hard to see.
yeah, the infrastructure, I believe, water. Can you see? Water, and then 2016 out to study alternate water intake, and 2017 explore metering options. I would like to suggest to move that to 2016, because when we were discussing about this in our strategic planning meeting, we are thinking that the alternate water intake would be a huge infrastructure project, and it would be very expensive, and so I suggested that one way to do it is to have water conservation measures, and we may not need to do a huge another water infrastructure project if we have a water conservation measures.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and speak to that?
Well, the infrastructure that we're talking about doing on the Castle River is more for emergency purposes and when we lose Kent Creek or when we're doing maintenance on Kent Creek
Okay.
and such. Currently, Kent Creek on a regular basis has gotten far more water than we need. And last year, by the finding some leaks, which we may find more yet, I'm not sure, we cut it by 35 to 40% less water now than we were using before. So the purpose of that is not, metering is very expensive to put in.
It's not to replace what we have now,
No.
which I thought that's the reason or the purpose of.
It's strictly for a backup for when we lose our main source. It's not to supplement anymore. And the advantages to metering is usually because, yes, you do, they say you'll cut your consumption by as much as a third. But it's very expensive to meter and to maintain meters. So I was only for favor of it at one time, but the more I've heard about it, most municipalities aren't doing it. It's so expensive. If it means developing a new source, then it does make sense.
Yeah, which I thought was the purpose of that project. Okay. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes, thank you.
Has anybody else got any comments? Everybody's otherwise satisfied with the document as it stands?
I've got a note of these modifications. I haven't heard any objections to any of them. The water meter, exploring water meter timing can be reviewed regularly. But everything else I've got a note of that can change.
Yeah, I don't have go ahead.
Well, I guess I was mentioning that about, economic development. Is that where, let's say, something like tourism would sit underneath for the corporate strategies in the economy? That would fit in that category, wouldn't it? It hasn't been listed specifically, but
Yeah, I think it will go under the economic development strategy.
yeah.
You good with that? We don't need a resolution or anything
No,
because it's going to come to regular council, right? Okay. One second. Moving on then to gas tax strategic fund applications.
I've given you a bit of a rather basic table there, rather than a report, because it's just to try and give you a picture of the kind of grant activity that we're looking at for this coming year and arguably the next couple of years. I'll go through them individually just quickly. Firstly, we have the Community Works Fund, which is the portion of gas tax revenue that the village receives directly from UBCM to spend within the criteria provided. That's approximately $100,000 a year for about another 9 years. Council is currently committed to a $40,000 expenditure for the liquid waste management plan, or at least a portion of those costs. There is room for a secondary project if council does not wish to defer any of that revenue this year into the Community Works Reserve. In terms of what project you might identify, you've discussed possible projects like aerodrome fencing, street lighting. Those would all be, in those two cases, those would be viable projects on some scale or another.
The other one we talked about coming from there is the blue bins. Was it out of the gas tank?
Yes, that would potentially be a very low-cost project if it was forward. I'm not sure if it will go forward, but
Yeah.
yes, I'll pencil in about $5,000 for that.
Oh, that's all.
That's all. It wouldn't be a major project. So there's that. Build Canada. Glenn and I are working with 9 Engineering right now to get a proposal submitted, and we'll be bringing some resolutions to you for February 10th regarding the municipal share. We don't want to scare you too much about the municipal share, but the municipal third will probably be around $100,000 unless we can source it any additional grant aid. And I am looking at the Green Municipal Fund. If not, probably looking at either a contribution from reserve or a long-term borrowing arrangement if we're successful with the grant proposal. CBT Water Smart. We currently have $36,600 in CBT Water Smart at our disposal for the water treatment controls project, which would significantly reduce the municipal burden. That's a $70,000 to $80,000 project. So we're extremely grateful to the Columbia Basin Trust in reallocating those funds. However, what's that?
Possible regional district.
It would also be good to have a regional district contribution from gas tax or another source to recognise the unincorporated residents that have the benefit of these capital improvements. But that's a negotiation that needs to take place. It might not take place, however that project is to go forward this year. The RDCK Community Development Programme, I'm estimating over $38,000 available to the municipality this year. That's not exclusively available to the municipality, but the municipality can endorse or allocate some of these funds to community groups and so on for projects that meet the criteria, which are fairly broad criteria. As I mentioned there are no allocated projects at this time, but the SS Moy slope remediation project may come up. There is a potential demand for broadband support for further rollout enhancements there within the community. We may be looking for economic development strategy match funds. And also there may be pressure for a community toilet program plan of some description, which this may fit with them. However, those funds aren't allocated at this time. You don't need to feel that you're under pressure to allocate them at this time, because the budget will present it as if it's money that's coming in that you will spend, but it just won't identify the projects at this time. So you're not under the gun right now on those. And
Just a comment, out of the community development program, where does the money to run Maydays come from?
Oh, it generally just comes from taxation. The payment that goes to the Chamber of Commerce, it comes out of taxation.
And we gave them $5,000
That's part of
last year
that.
from this community development fund.
That was for something different.
That was for something different,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So Maydays is funded through taxation, and as of yet, we haven't received any requests from the chamber for any additional funding for this year, correct?
Just ask a question. I thought there was a business license. Licenses required.
You can't. That's why we went to a conditional grant. It's a fixed amount at this point, $7,500 with a few key deliverables, and Maydays is one of them, and that's $5,500 towards light up, and then $1,500 goes towards insurance and advertising.
One other question to Glenn. The SS Moy project needs to be done this year, correct?
Yeah, it does. I suspect we'll be doing a lot of the work
Right.
as soon as we have a plan.
do you think a portion of $38,000 is going to be sufficient?
I really don't know what they're after. I mean, if it's strictly just the slope work, a lot of those are soft costs, like, our equipment and time, that
Right.
you're not going to get a pocket for.
But you're going to have to put something in there to, like
Yeah, that's what,
blocks or gating baskets or something.
I don't know.
Right.
We're still waiting on the final report from Northern Ireland.
Okay. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Columbia Basin Trust funding, we're currently in discussions with the Columbia Basin Trust with respect to the Kemble building, and Neil Mute, the CEO, has indicated to me that they may send their investment arm up to have a look at this building, have a look at its potential from a community and economic development perspective, which is something that is badly required for assessment of the building's potential. However, there are other opportunities that we're working with the Columbia Basin Trust. Right now, we're deeply involved with the Columbia Basin Trust on the City Hall front. Have a contribution agreement for $150,000, which we haven't implemented yet. The Mayor and I met with Mr. Nathan Woodrow from the trust maybe just over a week ago, I think. And we had some discussions as the $150,000 that has been kindly provided is unlikely to reach as far as we'd hoped, given the state of the building's interior. And the feedback from the trust is that they're willing to, in theory, they're open to a scaled down project with their funds if council indicates a continued commitment to finishing off the interior of City Hall. There's nothing in writing to that effect yet, but that's the indication that we received. Of course, the linkage to their trust is fully aware of the gas tax strategic fund, the April deadline, and the fact that a national historic site like City Hall would be eligible under those funds for a proposal from the village. So you can put two and two together there, what they're looking for. So the urgent decisions that are required from council are the up to three proposals that we can submit to the gas tax strategic fund, which will be reviewed by a panel of experts at UBCM after the April deadline. We will require to hire some consultants to put together parts of those proposals, whatever they might be, particularly if they involve a strong engineering aspect. However, it is 100% dollars, and the village didn't really take full advantage of the last decade of those funds being available. So, in theory, if we put together some competent proposals, we might have a decent chance of success. At least, and the downside of it is that if we're unsuccessful with any of them, we have a number of proposals on the shelf for next time. So, I'm recommending three proposals there. One would be a City Hall completion project. Our project manager, our architect are all currently mobilised for the current stabilisation project. It wouldn't be particularly difficult to get a quote on fees for them to assist us in putting together a large proposal for City Hall and getting the interior complete. Secondly, the street lighting LED project. After Glenn and I met with Fortis over a week ago, it was a fortnight ago now, it was indicated to us that it might be wise to attempt a grant application for the whole thing at once if we could, or try and take a decent sized bite out of what we need to do and cancel it. There are two options on street lighting that I can see as feasible. One would be to do an upper kaslo project. As the 2011 proposal split at that time that went to Towns for Tomorrow, split into upper kaslo and lower kaslo. Upper kaslo is considerably cheaper. That would be, we're only guesstimating here, but it would probably be about $100,000, maybe a little less convert Upper Castle to LED because they're not our poles. It's simply a head replacement initiative there. Lower Castle would be more expensive, as there would be a lot more pole replacement, and they're all the village's, it's all the village's assets. The last time a submission went in to do all of Castle, it was a $500,000 proposal that was turned down in the council tomorrow. And I think that was in 2011. That proposal could, working with another electrical engineer, be updated and redirected towards an LED proposal without too much difficulty. The data's already been put together in 2011 in terms of what needs to be done. Also related to potentially looking at that as a project for submission is the fact that Miller East and Glenn's here. One of the final resolutions Council passed after the delegation a couple of weeks ago was to direct Public Works to do some maintenance work on some of these light fixtures, including in Upper Castle. The village doesn't own those Upper Castle poles, and Public Works therefore can't really work on those. And of course, a lot of the submissions we've had are to do with Upper Castle. There are a myriad of issues that we need to address, particularly for Upper Castle, for anything to do with lighting. And Glenn did, like Glenn, we'll talk about that.
No.
Yeah.
There's different kinds of arrangements with the streetlights. Sometimes Fortis owns the head of everything, and you pay a much higher rate. It's always a flat rate, and it's on their poles. It's never metered. Or the other situation is where we own the light, and we pay a flat rate, but they have to maintain them. If we went LED, which they're quite supportive of, but they won't have anything to do with it. The arm and the head become ours. And right now the heads are ours anyway, but we can't work on them. But if we put LED lights up, they won't work on it, and then we will have to. The other issue is around the high voltage lines and transformers. A lot of them we can work on, but some of them we can't, even if they are ours, without training. Which, if we go this route, and I'm still in favor of changing them out to LEDs as a whole, for sure. Because I think we would save money, there's less maintenance. There's some numbers going, I heard that you were going to save like 90% on the power and stuff, like it's only one tank. That's not, it's about 50% on the power. LED is not that much more efficient than high pressure sodium. It is in metal halide, but not, and most of ours are high pressure sodium, if not all of them. You save a lot of money on maintenance, which is probably the bill for maintenance, I think, is as high as the power bill. Their rate to change out a light bulb is very high. And with LEDs, and if we own them and we can have somebody trained, we could pretty much eliminate that cost on most of it. And certainly there's better lighting, more directional.
In terms of its potential attractiveness to the gas tax strategic fund, doing all of Castle street lighting in one proposal might be enough to be recognised as a region, or at least locally significant project within the region, just doing it on that scale. It would certainly do a great deal on the environmental criteria, the power consumption criteria. It would stand as good a chance as many proposals. And we think in the time that we have available, it wouldn't be too difficult to put a proposal for that together, given what was done in 2011.
The 2011 one was for dimmable streetlights too,
They were
which added a tremendous amount of cost.
Yeah, it won't be as high as $500,000 this time.
And the reason, like at midnight, it would dim down to 50%, or whatever time you figure an hour. The city council guard just went that exact route with the dimmable ones. And they said that the only reason they did that is they got this unbelievable deal on this setup because some company was in trouble or something. He didn't get into details, but there was something funny going on and they got an unbelievable deal. He said, looking back now, that they would not have gone that route if they had to pay a regular price for this system. That's talking to the City of Castlegar's engineer. They would not have gone with the dim, they just would have gone regular LEDs. They still like the LEDs, but they wouldn't have bothered with the extra cost of the dimmable if they paid full price for it.
I agree with CAO that if we apply for funding for street lighting LED project, our chance of getting the funds are higher because gas tax funding, strategic priorities funds purpose is to reduce CO2 emissions. It's for climate change threats. So, yeah.
Anybody else?
I was just going to ask if you do, why they would not have done the dimmable? Is there something about the performance?
No,
No?
it was the cost benefit, and there's some question whether you really want them dimmed. Like on the main thoroughfares, you don't. And the cost savings in power did not really pay for the difference in cost for the initial installation. They're all connected by radio, like the little antennas that talk to each other on each one, and more things that go wrong.
I was just had a question, I guess, about the initial training for the LED. Is that what you're saying for installation or maintenance, or is it just dealing with the power, the transceivers and stuff like that? Like just so you're.
Fortis, because of WorkSafe, or it's that safety thing and having to contact safety.
It's a particular certification.
To be working within a certain distance of certain things on the poles.
So it's something like a weekend course, something like that, or
Yeah,
you don't know.
And we need to find out, it will either be a case of being something we can do in-house and train for in-house, or it would have to be outsourced. Yeah.
We have the truck, it's the proper type. If we can get the training, we will do it. So,
Yeah, my comments relate to the fact that even though we haven't really accessed this fund at any time over the last 10 years, the street lighting project, is it realistic to expect that we'd be successful in that and then get subsequent grants besides that one? I have a suspicion with that dollar amount that if we're successful in getting that grant, we might not get anything else that we're asking for. I know we're allowed 3 applications, right? But it may be unrealistic to expect to get all 3, even if regardless of the price.
This is a very difficult fund to predict. If you look at, I've shown the mayor the last 10 years of awards. Some municipalities did get multiple awards in the same round last time, so it's very difficult to predict what the results of this will be. UBCM have indicated to me that they are looking for technically proficient proposals, and they pushed me strongly towards an asset management property and capacity building project for consideration there.
It's sort of going to be much along the same lines. In the same year, some of the communities did get projects in the millions of dollars, a couple of them. So it's not, I don't think it's unrealistic. If it comes down to produce that many projects, we might be asked to choose, but or we might just get lucky.
Councillor Holland?
Yeah, can I have a quick rundown on what asset management capacity building project would be?
That's basically to do a really good inventory piece, have it properly built into our account system, but also have a proper rundown of the condition, age and depreciation of all of our capital assets.
That's right, from pipes in the ground,
Yeah.
roads, equipment.
What kind of money are we talking about? Budget like
That I still have to contact a consultant if that's something the council wishes to proceed. We're only allowed one proposal to the capacity building element. You can also go down different roads and planning. You have priorities there as well. You could look at an economic development or community development strategy. There were some awards in that area last time. They are 100% dollars, so we can get pricing and develop proposals for any of these items and essentially try our luck.
Let you continue for.
Final comment on that, then if there's a prioritization of these projects, my experience at the time council here is that getting funding for the city hall is the most difficult by far than these other projects. I'd see the street lighting thing going in the future. I think there's always going to be money for that. That's a real high profile, kind of in your face kind of project that even eventually the voters is going to get behind, people are going to get behind that. So the asset management thing, I don't, wow, what a grinding deal that's going to be. They could probably suck up tons of money and probably important, but you're not going to really see your ratepayers understanding what they're getting value for their dollar. That's kind of a hard one. So maybe that's a good justification for doing something like this here. But in priorities, the thing that I'm really noticing is that it's very seldom that we get opportunities to get funding for the city hall at the time. And if it fits in here, I think that'd be a good place to make sure we get that right.
I basically agree with Councillor Holland. I think we need to go for City Hall because it's taken so many years for us to get anything done over there through taxation and with another building to look after. I think if we have a chance at seeing that getting completed, I think we need to take it. And the street lighting, it's probably attractive for that fund, so I think we should do that. And what I was hearing around the regional district table by other communities is that asset management is not an option. It's going to be, it is mandated. So I think if we can find a way to get that funded through a program, then I think we need to do that.
Okay, I'm going to let Neil speak now.
I'm just going to, at the GFOA, which is for finance officers, an event for finance officers I attended last year, boot camp, the people from the province indicated quite strongly that future success in grant applications will be linked to the strength of our capital asset management plans. And if we don't have them and our reserves aren't in mind, we may start to be punished for those shortcomings. At least that was the line at that time. However, we do have options here.
Councillor Gordon.
What I understand also is we can apply for maximum of 2 for infrastructure and 1 for capacity building. So why not apply for 2 for infrastructure and 1 for capacity building? And if they ask us, okay, we can only fund 1 project, although you submitted 2 projects or project proposals for funding, then we choose which project you would like to prioritize.
Yeah.
If it makes the decision easier as well, UBCM are also at pains to stress this won't be the only round because there's about another 9 years of the current gas tax agreement to go. This is just the first of maybe 3 rounds. Probably be another round before the end of your term.
Well, I too agree that City Hall has got to be number one in that. We've got $135,000 of CDT money sitting, waiting, and we're contingent on attempting to match that fund to be able to access it. So we've got to come up with the cash somehow if we want to access that funding. So, but I think applying for all three, I don't think it hurts us. So are we gonna, do you want to take it to a vote at this point, or?
I'll move the staff recommendation that we put forward all three projects as listed in the pink. So number 1 being City Hall completion, number 2 street lighting LED project, and 3 to the capacity building part of it, the asset management.
Seconder? All in favor? Carried.
It can either be a resolution or a direction that Glenn and I should direct it to talk to engineers and consultants and get some pricing.
So you want a resolution to that effect?
Yeah.
So moved, second. All in favor? Carried.
The asset management, and we started that years ago. Susan Mazant and I actually put together. So a lot of it's, some of the legwork's done. It just never got put into anything really.
Well, just a comment to that. I know from our conversations at UBCM and stuff with the funders that in water, if you're not billing, if your rates aren't set to deal with a capital depreciation issue, your applications are looked upon with some skepticism. You know, in other words, the vast majority of water rates across the province are not taking that into effect. So people don't start paying more for their water and be more realistic about what it's going to cost to replace that infrastructure as it wears out. They're not going to be able to get the funding when the time comes. So this asset management is a very critical component in terms of keeping the ball rolling on this infrastructure stuff. Kelly, do you comment?
No, it's pretty much that. It looks a lot better, doesn't it?
Right. Okay. We beat that one to death.
Yeah, I think you're good, Glenn, if you want to.
Okay, item 3, aerial expression of interest draft.
As per council's request, I've drafted a request for expressions of interest. This is reflective of the thrust of the draft agreement that I was working on with the airport corporation. I've kept it a little bit more basic, as you can see, so as not to define proposals too much. The main questions are on the page 3, vision for project, 3 pages maximum. It asks a number of questions. What experience and depth does your organisation bring? How do you propose to provide operational services on an extremely limited budget? What additional revenue generation opportunities would you like to work with the village of Kaslo on? How do you envision working with staff and council? How will you protect your own and the village's liabilities and manage risk? Are you prepared to hold and fund your own general liability insurance policy? If not, please present your rationale as to why. I think that covers a lot of the questions that council have in terms of working with the proponent.
Comments? Councillor Holland.
So, on number 4, financials, providing audited financial statements, is that is the intent to qualify organizations by requesting audited financial statements are going to be something that most small organizations won't have the capacity to generate. So if the intent is to qualify applicants by doing that, then fair enough. But if it's not, then I might suggest either a review or 2-year statements or some other kind of something.
Given that it's the aerodrome and its operation, council should only be prepared to work with an organisation that's in good standing. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, please.
Well, further to what Councillor Holland has indicated, an audit is a very onerous project, and right there we have ruled out the group that we've worked with, because they're not even partly through a year, so they can't have audited financial statements because they don't have a track, any history at this point. So whether it's a semantic thing, like an audit is what we're going through as the village, and they are going through the finances with a very fine-tooth comb. There's the 3 levels of engagement when you're doing year ends, and that's highly unlikely that they would have an audited set of statements. Any of them that we'd be dealing with, at least not for the entity that would be providing a quotation or an expression of interest for this.
There would have to be as an alternative approach, there would have to be a commitment to provide them on an annual basis along with insurance papers and so on.
There are other ways to accomplish the intent through reviews or different. And then I have seen also where sometimes as an example, the gross operating budget of the organization would determine to what level of standard they would meet some kind of accounting responsibility. So if their organization had a gross annual budget of under $25,000, we would engage. If their organization has over $250,000 audit, there's some ways to scale, so it can be scaled to smaller operations that could have a chance to slide in and build up their business over time.
Like the Business Society Act, it states that if an NGO or a non-profit society had funding from public funding of $10,000 or more, it requires review engagement. That's it. $10,000 is nothing if they will work on our aid group. My comment is that the submission deadline is on February 27th. I think it's a little bit too short a time for a non-profit society, a local non-profit society, to prepare a project proposal like this. They don't usually have that manpower. So, and I think we need to approve these minutes first before we can advertise. Am I correct? The minutes of this meeting.
Yes, you have. Well, you asked for a draft, so
Yeah, before we can advertise for it. So we're looking at March. I don't think we have to approve the minutes of this meeting. We would recommend out to full council for next week. Yeah. Once we make the resolution at next week's council meeting, it should be good to go. So February 11th then would be
Yeah.
the start date.
But that is giving only 2 weeks, so I think we,
I can, if you had been happy with this draft, I could have advertised it tomorrow, because I don't need a resolution of council to advertise. But if it's, you're not committing to anything by advertising.
No.
However, it's entirely up to yourself.
I don't understand why it needs to go to council for, all we're doing is putting an ad in the paper. When it comes time to award the contract, then it should probably go through all proper channels, but all we're doing is advertising. Go ahead.
My impression was the committee of the wholes were not actually meetings to make resolutions, but that it was more of a forum for discussion rather than we were making firm.
But this could fall under direction to staff or something. We're allowed to do that, aren't we? I don't know. Whatever you want. I mean, we can wait till the next council meeting, which is 2 weeks away.
That's just next week.
Yeah, next week, so, and push the date back by another week or so, just to, I think 30 days is a good number from the day it hits the paper.
yeah.
Whatever your pleasure.
I think to give them 30 days to work on the project proposal.
But you want this to go to the next council meeting, or can we make the decision now to advertise?
I'm a new counselor, so I don't know what to procedure.
I mean, we're talking a week, one way or another.
Yes.
I guess there's a matter of procedure here, but
It's going to be probably more prudent and sort of like safer. There might be a slippery slope if we start doing things like this from committee of the whole. The committee of the whole is not supposed to make business decisions. And I don't see that this is an overly time-sensitive thing. I don't know that 7 or 8 days will make one difference one way or the other, personally.
and I'm okay with that, with the proviso that I would kind of like to see this whole matter settled in time to incorporate any suggestions, assuming we find a suitable group to do it, any of their suggestions into this year's budget, so that, you know, we have some idea moving forward where we're going with this. So that makes it a little squeezier on the back end if we figure our budget has to be ratified by end of April. Middle of April?
Yeah, to allow staff time
Right.
to finalize and get bylaws written and
Right.
all that stuff, because that has to be done and voted on by the 15th of May, so.
Just a comment. But anyway, so everybody's fine with the wording, and we're going to push it over to the council meeting for final approval to advertise. Is that correct?
That's what I understand.
Okay.
Just one quick comment, it's not just the advertising, we're accepting this as the wording for our expression of interest. It's not just to advertise this expression of interest, this is the first time we've seen this.
Right.
So it's more of a resolution to accept the wording of this document and agree to advertise it, so. And this actually gives proponents, if they watch the meeting, gives them an extra week.
Yeah.
Because then they know that it's coming up.
Depending when this is
Yeah.
available.
It's usually pretty quick.
Okay. Moving right along. City Hall garden area expression of interest draft. Approved for advertising.
Yeah, well, I guess I can't advertise this either, so. So, you have a draft there in front of you. It's a lot more basic than the other one. This one's a request for proposals for a garden design, following the direction at an earlier committee of the whole. A detailed design that incorporates an attractive but low maintenance garden area, an outdoor reading area for the public and members of council and district library, prominent space for a piece of public art, an approach that is complementary to the form and character of the heritage and commercial core development area.
Comments? No comments? I guess everybody likes your draft, so we'll put it off.
Well, yeah, well, what I'm wrestling with is landscape architect or designer. Like, do we have? I wonder if we'll get anyone locally for that, and how far afield would we be willing to go to have somebody who is either a landscape architect or a designer, and would they come, do the work for $1,000? There could be people in the community who have a vision for it that. Because it's just for the planning.
Right.
It's not for the implementation. That's where you get
Right.
more, you need more of the expertise. Some people will tell not to kill plants.
Or similar profession.
Yeah. That was my only
Similar experience or profession. Expert.
Or equivalent experience.
Yeah.
That's always that lovely catchphrase they throw in there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that,
Yeah, designers are fairly open.
Designer, yeah, I mean, that's pretty broad. I mean, anybody that's got any genuine interest that's really keen, they'll try to get there. And we have the latitude to, if we get some highfalutin outfit from Castlegar wants to take it on versus a local person, that we have that, we have the ability to make those calls.
So I believe the wording's okay, but we, at the regular council meeting, we passed a motion that the village issue a request for proposals for design contract not exceeding $1,000. So the council's already done that. So we can advertise this, we just cleaned up some language rules. I just thought it 2 minutes.
So I guess it doesn't have to come back on the next council.
No, that one doesn't.
It's been passed.
Okay. Do we need any kind of resolution on that?
No, not unless you have any big changes you want in there.
Can we move along? Okay, smart meter correspondence.
Sorry.
I'll make a comment that I certainly been following this issue closely in the Valley Voice, because half the editorial page every week is about smart meters and the people for it and against it. But I think the CAO has kind of nailed it in that we really have no jurisdiction, and we can certainly express our dislike or for them as a group or individually, whatever, but we really don't have the jurisdiction to be banning them from our community. So I don't know where that puts us unless we decide to take this to UBCM or something of that nature. I don't know.
My only thought is they're coming, I think. We've basically been told that there's no choice, but I just wonder if, we could say that we would like them to ensure that they're using meters that have been proven to be safe, because it seems to be, from reading that it was one company that had issues with their meters, and that there was only one company named anyhow that had defective meters or potentially defective meters.
For council to deal with this, you would have to recommend to yourselves a policy on the matter. before I could respond to the letter. You don't currently have a policy in smart meters.
Can the policy be, we don't want smart meters, and I mean, it can't be that either, right? In kaslo, so.
You refuse to install on municipal property, or do the same thing
But-
the homeowners are trying to do.
But do we have that jurisdiction even to say that?
As much as the homeowner, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's, to reply to this, it's basically to say that we hear this and maybe that, you know, yes, we don't want the ones that are causing fires in those models. And that, you know, and that, I don't know, maybe could we say yes, that we would rather not see them? I don't know. I agree with you. It's coming down the pipe. All the new freezers, dishwashers, you name it, are all compatible with this stuff. It's going to be mainstream around the planet soon, but I know there's a big group in our village, and maybe majority, who do not want to see these things here. So do we create policy on
And
it?
also it's one job less,
I mean, it's installation job
No, once you install it,
for readers.
for others.
Could we inquire of Fortis when this is all likely to take place, so at least we have a timeline, what their plans are?
I thought it was spring 2015.
It's coming soon.
And I know there's been a lot of, you know, there's these opt-out options that end up costing you an extra anywhere from 30 to 70 a month. Is this something that, I mean, can we maybe not right at the moment, but create a policy of where we stand on it? It might not hold much clout in, but at least it shows the public that we're on the same page, or
It cannot be called a policy.
they can't.
It's
All right.
policies, guidelines.
Yeah. We write a policy that they have to have permission to enter any property, or even that as a deterrent.
You can take a political position on the matter without having to take any further direct action.
So what would the position be? That we do not favor the installation of smart meters at Village of Kaslo?
Exactly.
If that's what you want, put it out there.
Can Fortis sue us?
Oh, I don't think so. Not for expressing your opinion.
It's the opinion of the village council. It's not our personal opinions. I don't know the legality.
Is there any liability attached to making that statement? I wouldn't think so.
No, it's very common for local governments to take political positions on resource politics and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we wouldn't be the first on this if it's just that. You know, a few places on the island where parties did the same thing. Or similar.
So we need a resolution?
I can't recall. I thought we may have made a resolution previously that respecting the people's right to choose
Yeah, we
whether
did.
they want a smart meter or not. Because some people may want one, and so to make a very hard and fast statement that we, don't want it, but there are people. There's always two sides, and I can't remember. This was a year or more back.
I do remember that,
Yeah.
making that statement.
Maybe it's more about having the option without being financially penalized.
Yes.
So how about we let staff research the minutes and find the original?
I'm just taking a look here. to find it pretty fairly quickly to pay this last year.
You recall that discussion?
Yeah, here we are. It was moved and seconded that the village right to Minister Bennett supporting the position of Spallanchine, asking that consideration be given to those who have smart meter concerns but cannot afford the extra analog meter reading fees. And I believe the minister responded to that letter.
That basically says, that we support people's ability to choose. So we could, if we wanted to send a response to Ms. Brielle, we could say, this is what previous council adopted, and we support, this current council supports that position. That's the way you want to go. Or maybe you want some stronger wording, I don't know.
Would you please repeat it?
The village right to Mr. Bennett supporting the position of Spallanchine, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, supporting
That's right.
asking that consideration be given to those who have smart meter concerns but cannot afford extra analog meter reading fees.
So we adopted the position of another community. They had put it out there, and we just said, yeah, that sounds good to us.
Is it worth maybe looking what other communities have said more recently? And just adopting something like that, that it's, that it's unfair for the opt-out fees? Something just like...
So this is a provincial government matter, right? That For
It's a
this
local
is-
of the province and
Yes.
the borough companies.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
The CAO had said that we could make a policy statement. What could we put into a policy that, besides just giving you something else to do, that would actually have carry any weight?
Well, you can go as basic or as broad as you want. You could go, for example, you could just state that you're opposed in principle to smart meters, or you can say something a little bit more qualified as to why you take that position, or you take something similar to the position you issued in the letter and provide some kind of rationale as to why. But that's where the danger that Councillor Lewis mentioned comes up. The deeper you go into the reasons why you might have that position, is when you might get taken to task for your position. If you just state your own position, you're usually okay. Or position for something.
So there was a resolution passed at EBC on a moratorium be placed on the mandatory installation of wireless smart meters until the major issues and problems identified regarding wireless smart meters are independently assessed and acceptable alternatives can be made available at no added cost to the consumer. That's a resolution to use. And you just want to cut and paste that. It's not like we're going on a long track or anything.
That's sort of
That's a good policy too. UBCM and see if they received any, you know, if that actually, the request already actually went through, and if they have received any response to that, rather than waiting until the next UBCM, or does it have,
Yeah.
it has a letter, okay.
There's a response from the province and a response from the federal government. See if I can summarize really quick. Clean Energy Act established a legal requirement for BCI to install smart meters for all its customers by the end of 2012. The province is satisfied that smart meter programs will deliver significant benefits. BC's Center for Disease Control has confirmed that hydro smart meters emit radio waves at power density that is significantly below the legal limits. Consensus of public health practitioners that current exposure levels of the meters and other radio frequency devices such as baby monitors while letting out constitute health of the public. Federal response? Looks like it's not there. So there was a resulting resolution that came back out of that. The next one was that UBCM requests that provincial government to monitor the effects of installation of hydro smart meters and to assess the impacts on public health.
When did that, was that at the last UBC?
2011.
2011. Where are we going with this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel general public of our villages, and it's not everybody, but if it is against them, I think it's more like responding to the letter and just maybe saying that we hear the concerns, and we can fall back on the initial resolution of the UBCM. That, I mean, it hasn't been dealt with, obviously. Or,
The resolution the village council passed a year ago, and that we also support. The new council supports that resolution. Motion also? Resolution?
The resolution.
It was, yeah, that the new council supports the resolution that was passed a year ago.
At least it's on the record then for if there is a case against this provincially or federally, right? In our municipalities.
And basically that resolution says that you have the option and that you're not going to be penalized if you choose the analog style meter.
Yeah.
Now, whether we can, I mean, we have no power to enforce that.
No, but they're not asking for that. It's,
Right.
I just wonder if it would be worth putting in a copy of the correspondence that went out and the response that we received from the province to that correspondence.
Yeah.
Basically, if you basically made a recommendation to council that you continue to support resolution 254/14, and just directly to put that correspondence in the letter.
Everybody okay with that? Alrighty. Need a resolution?
Yes.
Move. Second. All in favor? Carried. Okay, final item, long service recognition.
This was something that came up before Christmas from council regarding the issue of recognising long service by past members of council. Daphne has followed that direction and gotten some pricing along the lines council was considering. And she's provided some pricing and some images there. Staff can only provide so much guidance on this, and if you want to pursue this, you can so direct as if not. We will.
So, I think recognition is a good thing. I also think recognition belongs kind of to the ratepayers at Kaslo. Giving something like this to an individual is something they take off of their car. I don't think that's much of a public way to recognize. So, if you get to visit the Nelson City Hall, in the hallways around their council chambers and going in, they have pictures of all the mayors posted with the days that they serve. And I think that would be, if we're going to spend money on something like this, I think that would be a much more appropriate public display, something that would actually belong to the community and not to an individual around recognition. The new city hall would be ideal for that. There would be places where we could, and if we could also involve the Historical Society, allow them to do some research and digging and come out. And if there's not a picture, then there's not a picture. But it would still be posted as a plaque, right, with the person's name, and maybe you could have a standard picture to see it along or whatever. But I'd like to suggest rather than spending money on individualized flags like this. I mean, quite honestly, I have a few things here around my house that my kids are going to throw away when I die. And they fall in the door somewhere. So I think it would be much better to spend this money in a public way that would belong to the public and still give the recognition, because I do think that would be important.
Yeah, I like that idea. I agree with that. Did we establish what many years of service is? Something that I'm on one term, I don't really want to go back.
Well, 4 years is more than a few.
Technically. Okay, well, I have a picture up there.
Well, I guess it started out in order to, the thought was to recognize two retiring or the members of council that did not run again. But there's also the issue of staff, right? Because the inaugural meeting for the regional district, there were a number of staff that were recognized for, 5 years, 10 years, one's been there like over 30 years. And I don't know whether they got anything other than they came and were recognized for their long years of service. But because we did have a few long-serving staff members as well who left our employ in the last couple of years. So, where do we go with it? How, the number of years is one thing. One term of office is, I don't know whether that qualifies. So, not too high way of thinking.
One term to get your name on the list. 3 years would take the picture.
3 terms.
No.
The photos that are taken, when we're all together as a council, I think that would be worth having, immortalized that, this group of 5 people was council for this term. I think that's the kind of thing that we should do as a matter of course. But it's recognition for, long-standing service. Something a little above just the regular service. One term.
I feel that, personally, I like the plaques. I wouldn't just throw it in a drawer if I was the recipient. But I do think you should serve at least minimum 2 full terms, barring, unless you happen to pass away in office or something in your second term or something of that nature, And I think it could be extended to staff as well, the same template. I don't see the cost as being prohibitive. And I think if you're going to go this route, to make sure that you do a proper presentation take photos, make sure the photos get in the Valley Voice or the Pennywise or wherever you want to put them. I don't know. I always consider being on council as virtually a volunteer position, and I just don't think we do enough for our volunteers in this community and recognizing the great work that they do, regardless of what organization we're talking about. And I think this is a very small effort at rectifying that. But that's my opinion. So we need a vote of some description, yea or nay, or let's think about it some more.
And was this just about the current people, or now are we opening up the archives to say, okay, who we go back and give anyone who's still alive a plaque, or is it just something that this house is starting now?
Well, I think we wanted to honor Molly and Greg was what the initial intent was.
Yeah.
Both of which Molly did 3 terms or 4 terms.
Yes, and,
Greg did 3.
well,
A counselor, and then 2 is
at different times.
right. But
One he
still.
served 2 years.
Right.
Because actually, staff did look up the history, and Councillor Leafwood is the longest serving female member of council ever. And they had all the way back to, and I felt that was the case, but staff had done the research not long before that, so had that available, so.
Yeah, I don't think we intended to go back any further than that.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to go back and.
Doesn't mean anything then.
No.
Otherwise, it's going to become a major budget issue.
Well, I would still say that I think this is part of the public domain, and it's good to recognize these people, but I believe there'll be a legacy around making this a public display and making it part of it. And there's all kinds of things we can do with the new electronics. We could have a screen in a hallway that could be constantly circulating pictures of councils, significant staff, or whatever. I think the mayors are kind of the focal point around what most communities. It's like putting the Queen's picture on the wall. You don't put all the lieutenant governors and all the, there's it kind of goes, there's that position. But I think it would be a good project. I know I would be very interested, personally. And that would be something I would look at not once, twice. I'd probably look at it 4 or 5 times. I don't know how many times to look at the thing down in Nelson, walk up and down the halls and look at all those mirrors. Every time I go in there, I stand there and stare at them, looking out. And so that's a constant, that's a legacy for the community that goes way beyond just the temporary recognition of one person or in the newspaper or something. It's a legacy. It's something to be there for our children. And in that case, it would be possible to go back in the archives and you wouldn't, it's not a big expense of money, especially if you have, like the archives folks want to take that little project on. I think it'd be a really, really valuable thing for the community to do.
Go ahead.
I like both ideas. Because the historical aspect of that is because, when people come to visit the community, they love, even in small businesses, they just love to go see those little pieces of history. And if, as was suggested, once City Hall is back operational, that would be a good draw, I would think. Some people could just walk in and look at the building and see that, so.
Looks like the land is now. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fantastic. In the meantime, to deal with this, I don't see anything wrong with recognizing a couple people who've done some outstanding service and turn here, late terms here.
Well, rather than decide on picking a, let's first decide if the plaques are a no or a go, and then we can decide what style. So, do you want to put a resolution out there?
Well, I'll put a resolution that we accept the plaque design for these current ex-councillors and mayors that we're talking about, and that we adopt the policy that Councillor Holland is talking about for the future. And plan.
Or one at a time.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, make a motion for this, and then
No, I'll make a motion for the plaques.
We have a seconder? Second? All in favor? Carried. Now we need to
Would
decide. Opposed?
Yes, please record.
Okay. We need to decide which plaque.
Marble.
It's good that Daphne's worked for 115 years.
Just, there ought to be the spelling will be corrected in the first sample too. Just in case it's not true.
Kind of like the word honors rather than recognizes.
You like honors? I like honors too.
Honors is two words, two words and a U.
What's that?
Do you want the honors as a U or honors?
And
whatever the
Oh,
British spelling
right.
is.
Yeah, well, that's the American spelling, right? We should go with the British
Canadian English.
English.
O-U-R-S.
Any other opinions?
That works for me.
We get a motion?
CEO can just note that, because we already made the motion
Okay.
to
You
do
okay
them,
with
that
that?
is the preferred style.
Honors with the English style?
Honors in the Canadian English spelling.
Okay. And I believe that concludes our agenda.
Did you want to make any recommendation about looking into what Councillor Holland was looking into, see if the archives would be willing to, if we can do some research and maybe do investigating, and as staff time allows, rather than, it's not something that has to be done immediately.
No.
I think it's a brilliant plan.
There is no wall to put that.
No,
But at least we need to get into the city hall
yeah.
first.
But at least we could do some, some research and see.
It's kind of related to what you're discussing, but would you, in a lot of council chambers, we have pictures on the wall. We actually do have quite a bit of Village of Kaslo related pictures and art downstairs, which I think was temporarily moved over from City Hall. If you ever want to see some of the stuff on the walls in here, we can try and do that.
Well, I've always kind of viewed this as a temporary setup in here, but I mean, if it's going to be more of a permanent setup there, you should have a picture of Queen, the Canadian flag, the BC flag in here, and not just that flag. I mean, there needs to be a formal presentation that makes this happen actually, because it's in a government situation like that. But like I said, I've always viewed this as temporary, so I never really thought about it too much. But that would be appropriate. Especially before you start putting up any other memorabilia or whatever you call it stuff. You should have the official status symbols of government.
Well, I think it's safe to say we're gonna be here long enough to justify getting some flags and putting up a picture of the Queen, that's for sure.
It'll be clear,
Yeah. So what do we need, referring to Jim's recommendation?
I don't think you need to promote it. We can just ask staff to make an inquiry with the Historical Society, if they would be interested in researching and making a compilation of the pictures of the mayor of Castle for a possible display in the City Hall at a future date. That's staff, it's just an inquiry.
Okay.
Something comes back, we get more form, then they can ask us for $500 or something like that.
Or a student, summer job.
Also not quite related, but sort of related. Chris Temple currently estimates the City Hall exterior project with installation of the stairs should be done around March 20th. Everything's pre-painted and inside the building right now. Council, with everyone present, we want to redo pictures on the steps once that's done. It should look quite good.
Yeah.
And then you have everybody in it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, motion to adjourn. Moved, all in favor? Carried.